Jagarative, Jai Masters. Sometimes people write and ask, you always talk about the car in front of you, the weather, these low-hanging fruit, these simpler things, as examples of dealing with your stuff. But they say, believe it or not, there's bigger stuff than that. Have anybody noticed? Okay, you're going to see in the end, the way to work with the bigger stuff is to work with the little stuff. Just like when you want to play the piano, you don't start with Mozart or Beethoven. You start with the scales. When you want to play the sport, you get a coach. You practice hitting. You practice throwing. You practice. You start with simple things and you build your way up. It's exactly the same with your inner work. So that's why we stress the simple stuff, the little stuff, because people don't even do that. You don't handle the driver in front of you. You talk to them, you yell at them, you complain about them. 3 hours later, you tell somebody, that idiot didn't use his blinker. You should see what he's driving like. In other words, you couldn't handle how the driver in front of you was driving. I always ask you guys, has anyone ever talked to the driver in front of them? Speed limit, buddy, it's 55, not 35. Okay, and the answer is yes, every single one of you have. Nobody hears you. It does absolutely no good. The cost-benefit analysis is 100% cost, meaning you get yourself uptight, and 0 benefit. Pretty stupid decision. But wait till you try and stop it. Same thing goes for hot and rain and different things like that. Why did it have to rain on my birthday? My God, it didn't rain the other 2 days on both sides. Why did it have to rain on my birthday? What did I do wrong? That's just hilarious. What a stupid conversation to have with yourself. The rain has nothing to do with your birthday. It doesn't know it's your birthday. It has to do with meteorological patterns, right? El Nino and La Nina and what's blowing across the mountains in Spain. That's why it's raining here. But yet you still do it. What the teachings are teaching you, but we'll go heavier, the teachings are teaching you that if you can't handle that, what is the benefit of complaining about the rain? 0. What is the benefit of worrying that it might rain tomorrow when you want to go camping? 0. It's not going to affect the rain. In other words, you cause yourself suffering over absolutely nothing. And it makes no sense. But where do you try and stop? That's like saying, where do you try and play Twinkle Twinkle when you can't play the scales? Looks easy, but you can't do it. You have to start at the bottom and work your way up and take your whole being with you. And that's why the teachings are the way they are. Okay? What happens with the big stuff? The question becomes all the time, can I handle this? That is the mantra. That is the only meaningful question. Not why is it happening, not what I do about it, not to start with. The question is, can I handle this? Handle what? It's not the outside you can't handle. Listen to me. You have a serious talk? It's not the outside. It's what it does to the inside. If the outside was doing the weirdest, most terrible thing, and you were happy inside, you couldn't care less, could you? So don't ever think it's the outside that's causing the problem, because it's not the outside that's causing the problem. It's the fact that the outside, when it comes in, causes a problem. It causes all kinds of emotions and all kinds of thoughts and all kinds of disturbances. So that's very deep. You want to talk deep? We'll talk deep. It's very important to understand the outside is not bothering you. You are bothering yourself about the outside. The driver in front of you cannot be bothering you. They don't know you. They're not talking to you, not doing a single thing. But you are bothering yourself about the driver in front of you. All right? Spirituality is learning to handle reality. Why? If you can't handle reality, you are going to be disturbed inside. If you're disturbed inside, you can't help anything. You can't do anything. It's not fun to be disturbed, is it? You can't make good decisions when you're disturbed. If you are disturbed, every single thing you're going to try to do is to make things change outside so they don't disturb you. I don't care. That's what's going to happen. I don't care if it's a relationship. Don't behave like that. You know I don't like when you do that. You're going to try and manipulate and control the outside so that when it comes in, it's not disturbing you. Well, then you're not working with the outside. Your problems with the inside, you're dumping on the outside. It rarely works. It doesn't work. Having more money is not going to solve anything. Having a relationship is not going to solve anything. Not really. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have a relationship. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have money. There's nothing wrong with those things. But for you to not be okay and say the reason I'm not okay is I don't have money, the reason I'm not okay is I don't have a relationship, is not true. The reason you're not okay is you're not okay. You're not okay inside. So you understand it is you that has to change, not the outside. But don't get it wrong. It doesn't mean you don't do things outside. It doesn't mean you don't get married. It doesn't mean you don't have children. It doesn't mean you don't get business. It doesn't mean that. It's not about renunciation. It's about realization, that you realize the outside is causing disturbance inside. That's my problem in here. This is my domain. No one else lives in there. That's your house. If your house is dirty, it's yours. Nobody else is in there. Do you understand? Nobody else is in there. Mommy's not in there. Daddy's not in there. Nothing's in there. You're in there. So if it's dirty in there and messy in there, you did it. Oh my God, you can't handle that. The fact that you're carrying around inside of you things that bothered you 20 years ago, who's doing that? They're not happening anymore. There's nobody even, they're all dead. They're not even happening, and nothing hasn't happened for 20 years. But you're still bothered by it. That must be you who's doing it. You're the only one in there. That's what it means to take ownership for your growth. Nobody wants to hear this. Nobody wants to hear real spirituality. Here's real spirituality. There's nothing inside of you. It's more etheric than air. Everything passes right through it. Air is still made of molecules and atoms, and there's not. And there's the most etheric thing that could ever be. There's no super glue. There's no anything. There's just you. And you have this thing called will. And don't ever let them tell you don't. You have this thing called will. And when things come in, I'm telling you, when things come in, they will pass through if you leave them alone. Anything, everything. If your house burns down, you do what you can to help. When it's over, you don't have a house. Can you handle it? If you can handle it, you're fine. You go about your business, figure out where you're going to live next. But at least if the problem is outside, not inside. But if you can't handle what happened, you're going to be messed for the rest of your life. Fire will freak you out. Houses will freak you out. Fire engines freak you out for 20, 30 years. You did that. You didn't do the fire, but you didn't let it pass through. How did you not let it pass through? It passed through. It's gone. It's over. The house is gone. Fire engine's gone. Everything's gone. How's it still in there? You held it in there. That's the essence of spiritual understanding, and nobody wants to hear it. What they want to hear is, how do I live so close to a fire station next time that my house won't burn down? How do I marry a fireman? That's even better. In other words, you let your whole life be patterned about the fact that you couldn't handle the fact that a situation took place. Why? Because it's going to come and go. Everything comes and goes, doesn't it? Nothing has ever stayed in the history of the universe. It changes every single moment, but it doesn't inside of you. How did that happen? You have will. Do you have hands in there that can push thoughts around and emotions around, yes or no? Do you have emotions and you push them away, yes or no? Have you ever done such a thing? Have you emotions that are so nice you cling to them, and you want them to stay and you keep thinking about them? You're doing that. No good thought or bad thought or good feeling or bad thought, it stays. It has its day in the sun or the darkness, and then it passes because nobody's touching it. It has the right to exist. Everything exists, yin and yang. That's the reality of the universe. There's day, there's night, there's high, there's low, there's wet, there's dry, there's good feelings and bad feelings. That's not the problem. They will all come and go if you leave them alone, but you're not able to do it. Now you're talking about, some people say to me, I've talked about an evolved soul. That's a very powerful word. She's an evolved soul. He's an evolved soul. What does that mean? It means just what I'm talking about. You are in there. You're conscious. You're experiencing what's going on in there, aren't you? Okay? I say, my heart hurts. How do you know? I go through that with you. That's the essence of their teachings. How do you know your heart hurts? You don't ever ask that question. You say, what do I need to do to make it not hurt? You don't ask, who's in there experiencing that it hurts? If your mind's bothering you, who notices? Somebody's in there noticing that your mind, I don't know your mind's bothering you, but you know, don't you? What is the consciousness that is aware that this stuff's going on inside? So the essence of spirituality, and you want to talk about an evolved soul, is someone that can handle reality. If you can handle reality as it unfolds in front of you, you don't have to do a single spiritual practice. You will become enlightened. Can we talk about that? I mean, truly enlightened. The highest state that can possibly exist without doing a single practice, without doing a single anything. Why? You're already there. I've discussed that with you. You're already seated. Your consciousness is seated in the highest state of the universe. It's merged with God. It's merged with the universal consciousness. But it's distracted by your thoughts. Can your consciousness get distracted? A noise, a sound, a hammer falls on your toe? What happens? It goes right there, doesn't it? So your mind is making a lot of noise. Your heart is making a lot of noise. I don't care whether it's, oh, I love him, or I hate him. It's noise. You hear me? Wait, I'm going to go, is it distracting? If your heart all of a sudden opens up, and it's really all this, like, is it distracting? Yeah. You bet it is. Is it distracting if it feels yucky, terrible? Yes. So what gets distracted? The event is distracting. What does it distract? Your consciousness, your awareness of being pulls down into the distracted area. So you're literally sitting in the highest enlightened state already, but you're being pulled down by the distractions of your humanness. You're not a human being. Get that straight. Don't ever say, I'm only human. You're not even close. You're not even human. That is in there watching the human is not human. It's universal. It's pure consciousness. It's spirit. It's the most beautiful thing in the whole universe. But what it's watching, we could do without. And so because what it's watching is so distracting, it doesn't know itself. It gets pulled down and starts to identify with what it's distracted by. I'm the one who's married to so-and-so, and I'm the one that did this, and I'm the one that I got pregnant. That's not who you are. That's not who you are. Those are the experiences you had. But you are defining yourself by the experiences you had. I was married here, and I had this child. My mother wasn't nice to me. She liked my sister better. What are you doing? You built what's called a self-concept, a concept of yourself. That's not the self. The self is the self. This is a concept of yourself. You built it out of the experience that you had. But they're so distracting. Why? Why are they so distracting? Because you didn't keep the white lines on the road. You didn't keep the trees you drove by. You didn't keep the clouds that went by. But if a cloud looked like Grandpa before he died, we talked about it for the rest of our life. I can't believe I saw this cloud. All right? Or if somebody dumps you when you're in 5th grade, okay, it is there. It's in there. Why? Because you stored it in there, because you didn't let it go. You know, the essence of my teaching, let it go. But I know you're not capable of doing it, so we're talking about it. So if you had let it go, it wouldn't be in there. It would be like the white lines on the road. How many white lines on the road you seen? How many trees you've driven by? You don't store those things. You don't store them because they don't impact you inside and cause disturbance or pleasure. They just pass through. They're natural, okay? If you were able to let it all pass through, you may think, well, then I'm dead. No, you're not dead. If you can let it all naturally, not suppress it. This is what we're talking about, deep talk. If you can't let it pass through and you suppress it, you can't do anything worse than that spiritually. It's just it's like a virus, a computer virus. It goes down there, it spreads everywhere. You understand that? It can show up anywhere. Who knows what its root is, and all of a sudden you're yelling at somebody because something happened 20 years ago. So if you push it down, you kept it. But if you can let it go through like the white lines, then it's not distracting you. You're here now. You're in the present moment. Okay? So now you handle the past. Imagine that. Imagine if you're able to handle your entire past. It's over. Come on, guys. Don't let them convince you have to carry that with you, because you don't. It's like baggage that you weren't able to let go of when it happened, so you still got to store it in there. And what happens when it comes back up? It feels the same as it felt when you couldn't handle it before. Exactly the same. You're being given a second chance. Kind of let go now. But you don't look at it that way. You look at it, I don't want it coming back up. I don't want this. You should be saying, I don't want it in there, but you're saying it, I don't care if it's in or not, I don't want to feel it. So you're using your hands in there, your will, to push it back down. Using your will to try and pull it up. I don't know, it's all stuff. The point is, you have the ability to do things in there, and you know you do. All right? Don't you dare let them tell you don't have will. You have will. And so basically, if something distracts you, it pulls your consciousness down into it. If it distracts you and you keep it there, you keep staring at it, you identify with it. You say, it's who I am. No, it's not who you are, it's what you're looking at. That's a totally different thing. I say things that I think I'm going to get fired by psychology. Like, ready? No one ever has ever been depressed. No one ever has ever been depressed. They've stared at a depressed psyche, but that which was staring at the depressed psyche is in ecstasy. But if you're in ecstasy and you want to hang out with something you're staring at that's full of darkness, you're going to feel dark. So it's all about understanding you're a great being. You're sitting in the highest state. I said if you could let it go, you'd be enlightened without doing anything. No practices, no meditation, nothing. Why? Because if you let it go, there's nothing in there to be distracted by. If I'm not distracted, where I am? In the self. I'm in my seat of consciousness naturally because I'm not being pulled out. So that's what it's all about. Your entire life, Earth is a place that souls are sent to evolve. Why? Because they're not there yet. But you said they were seated in God. Yeah, but they're being distracted from that state. That's the fall from the garden. That's what it's trying to portray. You're pulled down into your personal stuff. Okay? And as long as your personal stuff is running you, what you're going to do is instead of trying to let it go, you're going to try and create a world around you that doesn't hit it. Can you relate to that? You're trying to create a world around you that doesn't hit your stuff, or it hits the good stuff. That's how you pick your relationship, you pick your job. That's what you call your passions and your dislikes and your preferences and your hopes and your dreams and your value. Do you understand that? All of them, hopes, dreams, concepts, views, opinions, likes, dislikes, preferences, they're all psyche. They're things you built out of your past experiences. Why do you like one thing and then don't like another? Because you've had past experiences. You wouldn't know what to like or not like. And basically, not only does she not like and dislike exactly what you like or dislike, tomorrow you might not like what you like today. Has it ever happened to you? You have relationships, don't you? And they end, don't they? There's a thing called divorce. I've heard of it. Well, when you get married, you have a pact, we'll get divorced in 2 years? No. You said, I will never stop loving you. I value you for my entire life. What did you do? Get out of here. Which is just an experience. You had an experience. So this whole thing about what you like and dislike and preferences and hopes and dreams and concepts and views, they teach you that's who you are and that's what it's about. No, it is not. Those are the ultimate distractions that are pulling you down to study your psyche, which you built out of your past experiences. Your psyche is built out of your past experiences. You're not. You're pure consciousness. You're spirit. You're the holiest thing in the whole universe. But you're staring at your psyche. Do you understand that? And when we talk about the slightly deeper things, we're talking about, can you handle that your husband had a bad day, your wife had a bad day, they came home, slammed the door, marched into the bedroom, and didn't even say hello. Can you handle that? Shake your head no. You can't handle that. You take it personal. They don't like you anymore. How could they treat you like that? Etc., etc. Instead of, oh, a tornado just went through the house. Wow, strong energy. That's called I can handle it. If you can handle it, when he or she gets over their bad day and comes out, you can have a nice evening. As opposed to, how can you treat me like that? Don't you ever do that again. That'll help a lot. Because then he or she can't handle that. I had a bad day. What's wrong with you? I can't have some compassion. And there you go. You got a nice argument going on instead of a nice evening. Do you understand? But you can't handle it, can you? Not only can you not handle that, you can't handle Sally walking by and you say, hey, Sally, and she doesn't turn around. You can't handle that. Next time you see Sally, you may avoid her because it hurt. Next time you see Sally, the first words out of your mouth were, why'd you ignore me the other day? You see me? You couldn't handle it. It stayed inside. But your mind is saying, yeah, but she should have said no. No. Something happened on the planet Earth and you couldn't handle it. And that's the only thing you should think about. I tell you 1,000,000 times, the planet Earth, 1.3 million Earths fit inside the sun. And don't look at me like that doesn't have meaning. 1.3 million Earths fit inside one star, your sun, and there's 300 billion of them in your galaxy, and you care whether Sally said hello? There's something wrong with you. You're supposed to be able to handle reality. Right? Not why didn't you say hello? That's not the first question. The first question is, why can't I handle the fact that somebody didn't say hello? There's 8.3 billion people on the planet Earth. They didn't say hello either. And you're picking on poor Sally. I'm trying to talk to you about the slightly bigger stuff. I can talk about the really big stuff. What for? You can't even handle Sally not saying hello. And so spiritual growth is exactly about what we're talking about. It's about learning, not that you're there, not you should feel guilty because you're not there, or ashamed of yourself, or this or that. No, it has nothing to do with that. Nothing. It's, I'm going to learn to play the piano. I know I can't play it. You know darn well you can't handle all kinds of stuff. I'm not saying you get totally weirded out, but you get pretty weirded about everything all day. Drop something on your pants and have to go back to work. Here, somebody comes up to me and says, you know, Jody told me that she was talking to Sam, who was good friends with Fred, and he said that that Fred doesn't like you. That's it for your day. Do you understand that? You don't even know Fred. I don't even know Jody. It doesn't matter. You can't handle it. That's what matters. Do you hear me? I'm being tough with you here. It doesn't matter what happened. It matters whether you can handle it. If you can handle it, then it doesn't matter. It's okay. Let's say I can handle it. Is that the end of it? No. Just because you can handle something doesn't mean you don't do anything about it. You look to see if there's something it's supposed to be doing. The baby's crying in the middle of the night. There are parents who can't handle that. And they hit the kid or they ignore it. Then there are parents who freak out. Oh, the baby's crying. Oh, my God. All right? And then there's parents, the baby's crying. And okay, the baby's crying. That's what babies do sometimes. The baby's crying. What am I supposed to do about it? Not what I want to do about it. Not what I not want to do about it. Not what I'm complaining about it. Just this is the reality that exists in this moment. And now that I can handle it, and nothing personal going on, I don't have to say, well, I have to get up early in the morning. Why is the baby crying now? No, nothing like that. Just, okay, this is the situation. Doesn't mean you don't do anything about it. You look at it and you say, what am I supposed? It's called Dharma. In the Eastern tradition, we call that your Dharma. It is not what you want to be doing or not want to be doing. It's you're handling it. You're at peace. Am I supposed to be doing something about this moment that's unfolding in front of me? And what you'll see clearly is, yes, I'm here. I'm supposed to take care of the baby, right? And there's no resistance. There's no desire. There's no fear. It's not about preference. You know what I'm saying? It has nothing to do with you. Dharma is what happens to you when you're done. When you're in a moment that you have nothing personal going and it's calling on you, doing that is your Dharma. It's not like you get to know your Dharma. That's like saying my mind understands, then it will never be your Dharma because you're making it be what you think you understand it should be. It's just there's moments in front of you and you're at peace, you're clear, you're not messed up about them. You will know what to do. It will call on you. Like, you know what Dharma is? I'll show you the ultimate Dharma. There's a leaf on a tree and it's fall. And that leaf naturally falls off at the stem. And it goes like this, twisting all over and then going back up and then going down, right? You ever see it? Doing all this? It has followed the path of Dharma perfectly. What do you mean? There was wind around it, it blew it up. The wind went down, it came down. It followed, it was in harmony with nature, wasn't it? It was in harmony with every single thing in the universe. Gravity, wind, weather, you know what I'm saying? It didn't have any preference or concepts or views or hopes or dreams. It was in harmony with all the forces that were coming to it at that moment. It's like a dance, a perfect dance that fell to the ground. Your life is meant to be that. Every single person's life is meant to be that. There is a natural flow of events that are unfolding in front of you. And if you can handle them, you serve them, you work with them, you're in harmony. It's called the Tao. These are deep teachings. The Tao is as deep as it comes. That's what Lao Tzu meant by the Tao. When you are in harmony with all the forces of creation. Not, how do I get in harmony? No, you're still there. You won't get in harmony that way. It's when Christ said you have to die to be reborn. When you are done with you, meaning you're done staring at this thing. Ramakrishna used to quote this. I'm not going to go down there and deal with this, talking about his body and talking about the whole ego thing. He was out, right? When you are clear, the unfolding of life flows through you. It flows with you. It's not about attracting to yourself what you want. That means you're still there. You still have problems. You'll have wants and not wants and desires and fears. Desires and fears, I mean, there's natural biological fears, okay? And there's natural biological needs, food, clothing, shelter. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the psyche. Generally, your problem is not about food, clothing, and shelter. It's about your psyche. It's about the fact that your heart's messed up and your mind's messed up and you can't handle it, okay? And by the way, I'll go deep with you. It's not even the fact that your heart and mind are messed up. That's not a problem. I mean, let's say I'm handicapped. If it doesn't bother me, you've met people, isn't it beautiful to meet someone's handicapped? And you should see it don't bother one single iota. They're just perfectly natural with it. They live with it. They accept it completely. That's beautiful, isn't it? Come on. You're that inside. It's not that there's not a problem. It's that you're okay. Well, okay, she's weird. She gets weird, but I don't care. It's like white lines in the road. I don't have to do anything about it. I don't have to find out, oh my God, how can I make it so it doesn't happen again? Why? Because I can handle it. I can handle that it's raining on my birthday. I can handle it. If I can handle it, it's not bothering me. If it's not bothering me, I don't get pulled down into it. Doesn't mean that it's not there. There are natural feelings that human beings have. Jealousy, fear, insecurity, right? Loss. If somebody dies that you love, of course you feel a sense of loss. Of course you feel a sense of loss. It's not that some great master doesn't feel any loss. It's that they're okay with it. They handle it. It doesn't change their direction in life. They can stay focused on what they were focused on, and they deal with this with compassion, with understanding for their human side, but they can handle it. It all comes down to, can you handle the moments that are unfolding in front of you? Look at me. You know the answer is no, all right? Can you handle the moments unfolding in front of you? And that's why now we're talking about bigger stuff, people dying that you love and different things. That's why if you can't handle the driver in front of you, if you can't handle the heat that comes from the sun, if you can't handle the rain, you're never going to be able to handle the bigger stuff. That's why what we teach here is learn to handle the small stuff, just like learning to practice the piano, just like learning to practice a sport. And so that you can do. You do have the ability to do better at small stuff. We talk about that. Well, it's really hot. It's so hot. Oh my God, it's so hot. I remember when Mickey used to complain about that. He had no air conditioning. He moved out here in 71, 72. There's no air conditioning in his car, no air conditioning in his house, nothing. Kind of gets hot in the summer out here in the middle of nowhere. And so he would complain. And I remember once I just sat him down and I said, why is it hot? Okay, he's an intelligent guy. He likes astronomy and all this stuff, right? Why is it hot? And he said, because the sun is hot. And I asked him, okay, that's kind of a brief answer. How far away is the sun, Mick? 93 million miles. Listen to that. It's 93 million miles away. How far away is Miami? 360. If all of Miami caught fire at once, you would not feel it up here. That thing's 93 million miles away. All of a sudden you say, wow. And then I'd ask him, I really did this. And it hasn't ever been the same since. And then I'd ask him, well, what is that thing up there that you call the sun? It's a star. You mean like those little twinkly things I see at night? It's one of those? Yeah, did you know that? It's one of those, exactly one of those. You're close enough to one of those to feel its heat at 93 million miles away. Holy mackerel. Who doesn't like stars? Well, you got one right there, and you're that close to it. I told you do not get sunburned. You get star-burned. That changes everything, doesn't it? You have the right to change your thought patterns, to raise the way you think. And then all of a sudden now, if I feel the sun, which I do all the time, every time, no matter where I am, if I get out of the car, I look up at it and do this. Just feel, oh my God, I'm feeling the heat from a star. That's exciting, right? No matter how hot it is, it's exciting. And all of a sudden you learn to work with yourself, learn to raise yourself. Instead of letting you stare at this negative part of yourself that complains about everything, you learn to work with yourself about natural, easy things. If you do that, the slightly bigger things will happen, and you're going to be shocked that they don't bother you. You'll be shocked that you learned how to relax and use positive thinking or mantra or whatever you want, witness consciousness, whatever techniques you want, you'll be able to use it with a slightly bigger thing. Just like when you first play tennis, the ball goes in the net all the time. After a while, you get it across. No matter how bad you are, after a while, sometimes it goes across that net. Okay, it's the same thing with this stuff inside. If you work on yourself, on these fun things, make it fun. If you work on yourself, you're going to find that the bigger things are easier. Not the really big things. It's just going to happen naturally. Okay, so now what you want to hear is what happens while you're working on yourself and you can now handle the driver in front of you, and you can handle the heat of the sun, you can handle the rain, and now somebody dies or somebody dumps you and runs off with your best friend. I don't want to say because I know it happens to everybody. I don't want to touch your stuff. Pretty soon we'll be crying. What happens when the big thing happens that you can't handle, right? I'm going to be a very great teacher. If something happens that you really can't handle, it's going to pull you down into it. Did you know that? What am I supposed to say to you? You just told me I can't handle it. Well, if you can't handle it, it's going to handle you. Have you noticed? Okay, so let's just start with honesty. So here's what you do. You're conscious. You're working with yourself in everyday moments. And now something happens, catches you by surprise. It catches you. And you can tell it's going to pull you down. You do know, don't you? It gets weird in there, doesn't it? It starts to get weird. It's weird in there, all right? Okay, what do? You stay up as long as you can. You don't push it away, which we're not going to be able to anyways. I can't handle it. But you just stay conscious even for 3 seconds longer than you would have. How? Well, you breathe, relax. I teach relax. Can you relax in the face of this thing that you generally can't handle? Maybe for a moment. I'm telling you, that's all it takes. You do it for that moment, then the other thing's going to happen when you get pulled. Let's get this straight. Do you ever get pulled down? Do you ever, quote, lose it? Now we understand what you're losing. You're losing your center of consciousness. It's being pulled down into this force that's very strong and difficult to handle. So basically then you pull down. You're going to see that there's a little consciousness. The more you meditate, the more you do mantra, the more you do techniques all the time, the longer you can handle the pull. Doesn't mean you don't go down. Don't worry about going down. Just worry about staying up the best you can. Then you get pulled down. Now I found, these are going back 50 years, right, that not only is it the extra moment on the way down, but when he came back up, he didn't want to have gone down. He had a self-concept of I can handle things, which of course he couldn't. So when you come back up, be careful about not wanting to look honestly about what happened. So, and when you start to come back up, let go. It's accept. You're not perfect yet. You're not evolved yet. It's fine. That's why you're here for. Don't every time you hit into the neck get freaked out. That's not going to help. So as soon as it starts to come back up, welcome it to come back up. No guilt, no shame. I'm teaching you. You want to know how to deal with the big stuff? No guilt. If you're always doing the best that you can, don't you ever feel guilt. The best that you can is the holiest thing that exists in the universe. And I don't care if the best that you can is nothing to him. It's not a comparative game. It's not competition. It's with you. So the best that you can is the holiest thing in the world. Why? The results of the best that you can are going to come back. You're going to have interacted with the world the best that you can. You may have thrown pots and pans. You may have been able to handle it. Whatever it is, it's going to happen. When it comes back, it's your teacher. It's not a punishment. Don't ever look at karma as a punishment. I don't like the way they teach you. Oh, she got bad karma. No, she has lessons to learn. See the difference? He or she laid down patterns. And by the way, don't even make them mystical. All right? If I'm upset because of something you did, and I yell at you and treat you not nicely, it's coming back. You don't have to make it some karmic mystical attraction. What you put out is going to come back. If I get all upset and I start throwing things, it's coming back. Just keep it simple. I don't want to get into those mystical stuff. Just understand that what you put out is going to affect other people and affect other things, and it's going to come back. But it's not going to come back as a punishment. It's come back and say, oh, you couldn't handle that without throwing pots and pans? Now you're getting sued. Now somebody broke an arm. You got some serious trouble. All right? It's not like, oh, it's my karma. It's, wow, I got some learning to do. And that's how it came back as a teacher. Do you see the difference? Okay, thank you. You want to talk deep? I'll talk deep with you, okay? But that's where you go when you don't deal with the low-hanging fruit, okay? Just understand the process. So you do the best that you can. What does that mean? I'm doing the best I can. I've been meditating, I've been doing this, I breathe, I do the best I can. And sometimes it just sucks me down. I can't handle this. There's something that's inside of me. It comes up and I just haven't ever been able to handle it. Okay? So what do? You do the best you can. When it starts to come up, you just stay up as long as you can. You can stay up a little bit longer. That little bit longer makes a big difference. Because over time, you're not getting the ball in the net. You got better at it. Then when it starts to come back up, welcome it, appreciate it, and just come back up as quick as you can, and don't judge, don't be afraid. If you did the best that you could, by definition, it's the best that you can. It's not like, oh, you shouldn't have done that. If you shouldn't have done it, then don't do it. Well, Now I can say that, but you know what I'm saying? I didn't have the choice. I got all upset. I et cetera, et cetera. Do you understand that? Okay? So come back up as soon as you can. No judgment. Just, I'm back. And learn. Learn what's going on. Look, say it. But don't get guilty, and don't define yourself as there. Don't ever define yourself as spiritual. Be spiritual, but don't define yourself as spiritual. That's just spiritual ego. That will hold you back more than anything in the whole world. Don't worry about what it looks like to other people, this and the other thing. Just do the best that you can. Do you know what the best you can means? I mean the best you can. You're an Olympian, and you spend 4 years trying to win the gold medal, and you're working at it. That's what you are inside. Okay? Trouble is you're not an Olympian, right? So not yet. You just do the best you can, and then honor it and respect it. Then the question becomes, why is it so hard in there? Where did it all come from anyways? If I'm such a high being, and you are absolutely the highest thing that ever walked the face of the earth. And Christ told you that. As I sit by the throne of my Father, that's a state of consciousness. As I sit by the throne of my Father, so you shall sit by my side. And these things which I do, you should do these and even better things. Buddha said the same thing. They all did. You're a very great being, but what you're staring at, not so great. Okay, you know that. Where did it come from? I usually give an entire lecture on that. My books lay it out, and Living on Tether, the latest book, really lays it out. Very, very slow and deep. All right, where does it come from? You have had experiences in your life that you couldn't handle. It's not guilty. You're a little kid. The parents get divorced. Somebody spanks you. There's all kinds of stuff. Bullies at school. There's so much stuff. All right? And you couldn't handle it. So what'd you do? You push it away with those hands inside. Little kids have hands inside too. Lots of them. Otherwise Freud wouldn't be able to talk about your youthful mommy daddy years. You push them away. You can't handle them. You push them away. Then they're stored inside. And so now what's happening is I'll do it real quickly. We don't have a whole lot of time left. All right? If you store inside of you every single thing that ever bothered you, what's it going to be like in there? Bothered. And that's how it is. You stored that stuff in there all day. You store every single thing that ever bothered you inside. Then you wonder why you're not okay. That's why you're not okay. That's why it's the way it is, and that's why it pulls you down into it. Now you got all these pockets of pain and hurt and this and that, and now anything that happens outside hits those, and it can bring up storm into it. What is anger? Ever get angry? Do you ever get angry? Yeah. What is anger? Something hit that pocket of stored garbage, and it's trying to release. It doesn't want to be down there. Just like your body has an immune system that tries to get all impurities out. I'm telling you, your heart and your mind are way higher than your physical body. They don't want those impurities in there shoved in. You shoved all that stuff into your heart. Then you wonder why you don't feel love. You do feel love if they say exactly what you want, act like you want, and dress the way you want, and treat your parents the way you want. And if you do every single thing you want, you can feel love. In other words, it makes it through some scars. They'll call some scars, that stuff you stored in there. Okay? So that what's happening when you feel anger is stuff hits that stuff, and it's trying to release. And so it comes up as energy trying to release, but you can't handle it, not a chance in the world. So what do? You throw it outside. In a sense, you can't handle the energy. So you try to throw it away, fighting, yelling, running, whatever it is. That's a way of throwing the energy out because you can't handle it inside. God, if you understand this, I'm doing my job. Do you understand that? That's what anger is. It's an attempt to release energy that you can't handle inside, and it's ugly energy. Why? Because you stored ugly energy in there. And if somebody says one word to you that it hits that stuff, it's coming back out. And now whether you get angry and run away, fight or flight, right? Or get angry and attack, same thing. There's no difference. The point is you have no control. You can't handle the energy. So you handle it by running away. You handle it by hitting somebody or throwing things or yelling or screaming. And that goes for all those energies inside, not just anger. Jealousy, insecurity, all this stuff. It's just you stored stuff in there. So the beauty of the natural energy flow that you have inside of you, that's always love, always inspiration, it's just very high. You're a high being. It can't come up because it's got all that stuff on top of it. So that basically that's why the stuff pulls you down. Exactly like what bothers you doesn't bother her. Like the example, your sister got a red bike and you wanted it. And now you can't handle your sister, you can't handle the color red, you can't handle bicycles, you can't handle your parents. You stored this stuff in here. She had nothing going with red bicycles. You don't understand why you're getting weird. A red bike drove by. the reason it impacts you so strongly is because you stored all this troubled energy inside, and now it pulls you down into it. You couldn't handle it before, you can't handle it now. Well, you didn't do anything about handling it. You thought, oh, it's gone. It's not gone. If it didn't make it through, it didn't make it through. And it's coming back up. So what you do is you look at it and say, do I want this inside of me? So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking right now about the best that you can, do the best you can. Someday you're going to look and say, I don't want this inside of me. It's terrible. I'm always scared. I'm always controlling and manipulating. All your preferences and hopes and dreams are because of that. A great one does not have those things. A great one's liberated, filled with ecstasy all the time, and then interacting with life as it unfolds. And it may look like they're doing something, but they're not. They're just in harmony with what's unfolding. They don't have these big dreams and plans and all that kind of stuff. The great ones don't have that. The great ones are there interacting with everyone and everything as it unfolds, and therefore they're helping everybody. They're helping everything, all right? Because they're not doing it for themselves. There's no reason to do it for yourself. You're filled with joy and love all the time. So you serve what's unfolding in front of you. That's a saint. That's a great being. Not because they behave the way the Bible tells them to or something tells them to, because there's no reason they wouldn't. They have nothing going. So what it means to do your best is to understand, I have this stuff in here, and it's screwing up my life. So do I do my best to manipulate and control everything in my life so it doesn't hit my stuff? That's not what it means to do your best. Your best is to sit there and say, there's greatness in here, but I've shoved all this garbage on top of it. And I did it. I wasn't as conscious as I am now, but I shoved it in there. I don't want it in there. I want to devote my life to purification. I devote my life to cleansing. I want this stuff out. I don't want this stuff in here. I don't know how to get it out, but somehow life does, because it seems to hit it. Life seems to know exactly what to do, and it hits my stuff. Good. You change your whole attitude about life. You welcome that situations will come that help you let go of your stuff. That's doing the best that you can. You do the best you can to allow, when it comes up, to let it go. You won't do perfectly. You can't, right? But you can learn. So that's the spiritual path. It's a very great thing, isn't it? And someday you'll understand how great you are. You're a very great being. I don't care what you've ever done. I don't care what everybody ever did to you. I don't care. The past is irrelevant. It's already over. What are you doing holding on to that garbage? You say, yeah, but it was a traumatic experience. That's all the more reason not to have it in there. Why would you take the worst thing that ever happened in your whole life and make it your life? Look at me. Answer me. Because you don't know how not to. You don't know how to handle something, even if it happened 30 years ago and never happened again. So what you do, like I said, you don't start with the big stuff. You can't. But you do at least start working with yourself with the little stuff, the low-hanging fruit. That's what I've come to see. That's your best bet. If you can handle the rain, you can handle the weather, you can handle the sun, you can handle somebody not saying hello, you can handle the fact that you dropped something on your pants when you have to go back to work, you can handle the fact that you didn't get the raise, but your other employee got it, you didn't get the corner office. Come on, just little by little, sitting there saying, do I want those events to take away the joy of my life? Like you're sitting there saying, if I get the corner office, and people respect me, that will make me okay. You want to bet? There are lots of corner offices, and they got just as many problems as you do. Come on, have you not seen you've gotten things in your life? How long does it, there it is, it's over, everything's over. Never. Never, because what you're doing is, I'm not okay to start with, that's why I want the corner office, so people respect me, because I don't feel good about myself. So now I'm going to compensate for what's wrong with me. That's not the same as fixing what's wrong with you. That's compensating what's wrong with you. If somebody gets a nicer office, or they give you the office for a week, and then the boss comes in, no, that was a mistake. You don't get this office. How you doing now? It didn't fix a thing. You kept your problem inside, and you compensated for it by hiding behind events that are in the world. That's not the best that you can do. And eventually you wake up, the best that I can do is to let go of the stuff that's inside of me. How? When it comes up, relax. Welcome it up. There's so many things. You will get to a point where you welcome that stuff comes up. The more it comes up, and the more you can stay conscious, underneath that is something so beautiful. And people write me from all over the world all the time. Because they're just practicing with low-hanging fruit, and they're happier, and they didn't get divorced, and everything's working out better. Of course it is. because you're no longer trying to manipulate the world to match your garbage. And you know what I mean by that? Do you or do you not manipulate people, places, and things to try and match what makes you feel better? Yeah. Then that's your garbage. Because the only reason you don't feel ecstasy all the time is because you put that garbage in there. So anything you're doing that you think will make you feel good is keeping your stuff and trying to compensate for it. But that doesn't mean you don't do things. I told you, you do the best you can. Take a relationship. You start a relationship. It's fulfilling. You don't renounce it. You don't throw it away. You don't be afraid of it. But keep your eyes open. Because you're going to see all the stuff I just talked about. The minute they don't behave the way you expected them to, you're not going to feel so attracted to them. Anybody noticed? So you start to see, I'm not having a relationship with the other person, I'm having a relationship with me. I'm trying to make the other person be me. I'm trying to make them be the way I want them to be because I have my garbage inside. Well, what if I didn't have the garbage inside? All you would see is God everywhere. You would see that state you reached of pure consciousness is what's inside of everybody, but it's looking at their stuff, and they haven't let go of their stuff yet. And that's where compassion comes from. It's not sympathy, it's compassion. And all of a sudden, again, I'm a nice Jewish yogi. I love Christ's teachings. Let you who is without sin throw the first stone. It said unto you, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, but I said unto you, resist not evil. All of his teachings, love thy enemy. They're basically saying, don't go with your stuff. It literally says, if you have a problem with your neighbor, work it out before you go to sleep that night. Whoa. It's the essence of all the deep spiritual teachings. In other words, handle things. Don't store them inside of you and let them screw you up. Isn't that neat? And all the deep Kabbalah teachings and the Torah and the Buddhists and the Quran, they all teach the same thing. They're all teaching, learn to love, learn to accept, learn to serve. It's the essence of all the traditions. But this, it's easy to talk about, but this is how you grow into that state. So eventually you get to a point where, you don't have to be enlightened, but you get to a point where you're high enough that you realize, she's looking at her stuff, she's looking at her stuff, he's looking at his stuff. It's of course different than my stuff. How am I judging? Again, what does the Bible say? Judge not that ye shall not be judged. For unto whatever measure you judge, so it should be judged back unto you. In other words, if I say, God, you're not looking well, you look like you're eating too much, man, if I gain a pound, I feel guilty as could be. It's just, you see the deep teachings? Okay? And the ultimate was Christ died to be reborn. You must die to be reborn. You must let go of your personal self to be reborn into the Spirit. But it's not reborn, you're already there. You're just being distracted by yourself. We talked about some deep stuff tonight. You want to talk about how to handle the deep stuff? That's how you handle the deep stuff. You sincerely want to work through this stuff, and you do your best every single time to try and let go. And if you don't, be grateful that you get to learn. That was a very good learning experience. People say to me, but I feel guilt. I heard somebody years ago, and I didn't do well, and it bothers me all the time. I have a very simple question to ask you. If the exact same situation happened again, would you do the same thing? Every single time they say, no, of course not. Then you learned. You have the right to learn. Has nothing to do with guilt. Has nothing to do with shame. Don't deny yourself the right to grow. You hear me? That's ridiculous. All right. Work on yourself. Jaggerneth.